Welcome to Builder Buzz by Home Nation, where we bring in builders, developers, and everyday investors to talk about one of America's biggest opportunities, affordable housing. We'll talk about real costs, explosive growth, big mistakes, and tough lessons you won't learn anywhere else. Whether you're building homes, buying land, or just building big ideas, this podcast is for you.
Hi everyone, today my guest is Jeff Halsted with Halsted Homes, and we often think about what we eat and how that affects our body. We're much more health conscious than we used to be, just because we're aware of the negative effects that just eating unhealthy foods can have, or processed foods. So we get that as far as foods go, but we probably haven't thought how our house affects us and how it's built and the different materials that were used and how those affect us. And so Jeff focuses on that, and it's very unique. It's very different. I've never actually even thought about it, and I'm in the housing business. And when you think about products and materials as far as sustainability and focusing on sustainable materials, but you don't think about healthy materials. And Jeff Halsted does. And this is super interesting. I never heard of this. I don't even know the concept healthy thinking, healthy materials, healthy homes. Don't even know the term to use. Maybe it exists out there, but it's new to me. And it's something that Jeff really has done a lot of research in and has experienced personally the benefits of having a healthy home. So tune into this one. It's definitely very unique. Thank you so much for listening.
My name's Jeff Halsted. I'm the owner and lead contractor at Halsted Homes. We're based out of West Michigan, Grand Rapids, and we do residential and commercial renovations as well as new builds, primarily in the healthy home sector.
Healthy home?
Yes. So I did a deep dive down a rabbit hole that I've not been able to come quite back from in studying the building materials that are used in general everyday construction.
Yeah.
So looking at fiberglass insulation and spray foam insulation, stuff like that. And even XPS and EPS insulation as well. You find there's adhesives and flame retardants. There's VOCs that off-gas. And those things don't stop off-gassing once they're installed, right? They stay off-gassing for the rest of their life. And, much like asbestos, we didn't see diseases related to asbestos until 20 down the road.
Yeah.
We're looking into building material alternatives and supplying that to our homeowners and to our other contractors that we're working with. Stuff like wool, which is, there's no VOCs. It's naturally mold resistant. It naturally regulates the humidity levels in your home. And it's sustainable. Same thing with cork insulation. Same thing with hemp insulation. They all have their benefits and whatnot. But, I'm big on being outdoors. I'm big on hunting. I love outdoors. And, if the trees naturally filter the air and the ecosystem that's out there naturally provides a sustainable solution for our benefit, then the houses that we build ought to do the same thing rather than, they call it cabin fever in the winter. But really, it's just breathing in additional VOCs because you're more sealed off and not outside as often. So
that's very interesting. So I haven't heard this term healthy home sector. Is that a term or is that something you've coined?
That's a good question. I don't think that it's actually a term yet. I don't know if it will, or if it is, it might be coined something else.
Okay.
That's kind of the term that we've given it. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make an ecosystem in a house that naturally regulates humidity, naturally filters the air, and doesn't off-gas any harmful additives into the air that you're breathing.
So what made you do a deep dive into this then?
So the primary reason is my wife has always promoted a healthy lifestyle, right? I'm significantly more healthy as a result of my wife than I was when I was in college. And, I think any married man can say that they're probably healthier outside of college with their wife. Not, but, looking at natural remedies for a common cold that's not going to hurt you at all. There's lots of things that nature gives us that are actually good for us and help us and promote the human body to function the way it's meant to function.
Yeah.
Rather than manufactured things that aren't necessarily meant to help, but more to mitigate the symptomatic issues. And as a result, she's looking at what we put in our bodies as a family, and I'm very thankful for that, because it allows for us to have 5 healthy children. I'm very thankful for my kids as well, and it has definitely increased my level of energy. But not just what we're putting in our bodies like food, but what are we surrounding our bodies with? And the air quality is actually a really big proponent of how our brains function and operate.
Okay.
So there's lots of cases where mold causes significant problems with mental health. There's lots of cases where off-gassing can cause people to have headaches, or they'll get a new flat roof section done and they'll be smelling some residue and it causes a headache and stuff like that. So we know that the air quality surrounding us and the building materials that we're using do have a direct implication on how our body operates and functions.
Yeah.
So that's really why I did that deep dive, is because we had a mold issue that came up, and it caused some health issues for a friend of mine. But I also had health issues growing up. I was an asthmatic growing up because the house that we lived in had black mold, and we didn't know it until years down the road. And then once we moved away from that environment, the symptoms eventually went away and gradually got better.
I see. Wow.
So
that's very interesting. I know someone who she reckons that she went into labor early because of the mold that was in her house, because the AC filtration system was not up to date, and it was undersized for the house and all sorts of things. And so once they replaced that, her next pregnancy was fine.
Yeah.
So I saw. Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting because my sister and I actually both almost died when we were born, and spent a considerable amount of time in the NICU, and it was in a house that had mold issues. And again, we live a very healthy life now, and our children haven't had any complications because we live in a mold-free environment. Now, to say that that's the only cause would probably be foolish and not considering any other variables. However, it is a consistent variable that regularly shows up, and it gives us enough cause for concern to actually look at what we're building with and the materials that we're using in the building process.
Yeah. So tell me, what materials are the biggest culprit of being unhealthy, and what is it that is the culprit? Is it mold? Is it this off-gassing? What do you mean when you say off-gassing? Can you just fill me in on that?
So it depends on what area of building you're looking at, right? So plastics and composites always have some level of off-gassing, and they also don't have a sustainable process. They're not found in nature and able to be replicated on demand at a global scale without having a net negative impact carbon footprint on Earth, right? But you do have some companies that are running composite decking and stuff like that off of recycled plastics. I can get behind that because we do have to utilize the plastics that are already in production, but just been thrown away. We do need a way to reutilize them and actually use them in a good and meaningful way. But I'll stick with wall cavity and wall covering for now, because that's primarily what I'm focused on right now, because the wall covering, that's what you're touching, whether it's drywall or paint or what we really like and have fallen in love with is limestone plaster or lime plaster, because lime plaster is waterproof but vapor permeable. So it lets water out and it lets it breathe out so you don't have mold growth, but it won't let it come in, which is really cool. And because lime is naturally more acidic, it's antifungal, it's anti-mold, it's antibacterial. And so it's cleaning the air and absorbing CO2 as it is resting in your house, which is just
I never heard of that.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A slam dunk.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. I want to hear more.
Yeah. And that's been a building material that's been used for centuries.
Mhm.
Historically, limestone plaster and lime plaster were very popular materials to be used.
Mhm.
But you have some efficiencies of like Portland cement
Mhm.
that allow for Portland cement to be made cheaper, and as a
Yeah.
result, naturally the market's going to go in that direction. However, we also have to consider the long-term implications.
Yeah.
Most of these things that we talk about, the upfront cost might be a little bit more,
Yeah.
but the long-term cost really is less because long-term you're healthier. And these products tend to last longer too. The compaction ratio of wool, it doesn't compact as fast. It doesn't break down as fast.
Yeah.
So off-gassing. Sorry, I'm going to hop around a little bit, but
That's fine.
off-gassing.
Go for it.
To answer your question, it's these volatile organic compounds that are found in these materials, like fiberglass insulation, like spray foam insulation, like XPS insulation. And they're additives to act as binders, essentially, or to act as flame retardants. But some of the ones that we see, we see acetone, we see formaldehyde, we see phenol, we see styrene, we see resin, we see ammonia. All of these are found in fiberglass insulation.
Wow.
And they continue to off-gas, which means they continue to leak out into the air during the course of their life.
Yeah.
Now, most people know formaldehyde's not good for you.
Yes.
Right? It's a pretty common thing. Most people know that acetone's not good for you or ammonia is not great for you. And you have a lot of these different VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that are found in these materials that are not found in wool. Matter of fact, for instance, our partner, we're a supplier and reseller for them now, but our supplier sources all of their wool from sheep in New Zealand. Okay?
Yeah, well, makes sense. A lot of them there.
Super cool. Yeah, lots of them there. But wool actually regulates moisture as well, just like stone plaster, and so it doesn't allow for mold to grow as well. And it doesn't have any VOCs, but as a matter of fact, it actually, in scientific studies, has been known to absorb those VOCs and lock them in so they aren't released into the air that you breathe.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
So yeah, it's kind of like your own air filter in every single wall cavity of your house. So yeah, and then, like with drywall, right? I recently learned that you have to look at what plant the drywall comes from. If it comes from a plant that use pre-consumed recycled materials versus post-consumer recycled materials, you want post-consumer recycled materials because pre-consumer recycled materials, you have a higher amount of what they call FGD gypsum, which essentially they get their gypsum by scraping the gypsum byproduct from the gas in the flue of a coal plant.
Okay.
It's the stuff that's going through the flue of a coal plant. And they use that to create the gypsum. It's a synthetic gypsum. And that has considerable higher levels of mercury production and mercury entering into the environment through that production process.
Wow. I did not know
it's
about.
Just, it's stuff that people don't typically take the time to think about because, you look at your wall and my wall's my wall.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think about it much more than that.
Right. It looks the same. It's beautiful. And, we'll still we still install drywall. We still paint. We still install LVP flooring.
Yeah.
It's just when we have this educational conversation with the consumer, we want them to be educated on the decisions that they're making so that they actually are able to take ownership of some of these, I know I can make an educated decision.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're still going to go with one option or the other, you at least have the opportunity to.
Yes.
And most people aren't even afforded the opportunity to know because the contractor just wants to get a job done.
Yeah. That's amazing. So then what happens when in general, you educate someone on this? Say, hey, just FYI, here's what we have. I can tell you more if you're interested. Yeah, I'm interested. Tell me more. Okay. Do customers go with this or do they say, nah, I don't see the value in it? How does that go?
Yeah, the majority of the time, they're actually incredibly surprised, one, that a contractor would take the time to educate and put all the options out on the table.
Pretty true.
But, the stuff that they never even realized, they're also floored about just how much goes into building materials that we don't think about.
Yeah.
But most of the time, after the education process is done, it's not a very difficult sell. And I use the term sell loosely there because I'm not like a bait and switch or I'm trying to make more money here. It's really can we invest in sustainable products? Can we invest in your health? And is it worth it to you? And, there's a lot of people, especially in Michigan, that have struggled with mold enough or seen the effects of mold enough to be willing to make that investment. And, I would say that the majority of our leads now are on the higher end. And so I don't know what it would look like for typical standard construction. I don't know if somebody would be willing to move forward in that way. I don't know. I do know with regards to commercial, there's some things that you just can't offer with commercial. For instance, there's focus primarily on schools and churches. So we've worked with school districts, we've worked with universities, and we've worked with churches. And that's the extent of our commercial work. But, some of them require spray foam insulation with a fire retardant because it's a commercial space. And so we can't necessarily offer a different alternative that's still naturally flame retardant, but, it requirements for commercial spaces.
Okay. You build houses as well? Yes. Or it's something that how much of is the goal to move into that direction?
The goal is to move completely into that direction. Where all we're doing.
Okay.
That's really where our heart's at. That's what we want to do is we want to renovate and build clean homes for people.
So is there a market? I would think there is. And again, it's going to be the higher end of the market probably because affordable is affordable for a reason. You're cutting, I don't want to say cutting corners, but like it's a trade-off. Okay. But so I would think it'd be the higher end market that would be interested in a healthy home, you could say. But I've got to be a market for that. Like that's like you said, it's an easy sell. Like, hey, check this out. This is what we built. Boom. It's got wool. It's got this lime plaster. It's got this on the roof. Like long term, this is the best that you're going to get. I feel like that would be an easy sell.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just a lack of education because there's not much education out there. You can't get wool insulation at Lowe's or Home Depot. I mean, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you get spray foam, you get XPS, and you get fiberglass. Like that's what's there. That's what's offered. And so it is an educational process that eventually leads to adoption. And, given the higher eco-friendly requirements that you see over in California, the West right now kind of has a lot more money invested in the game of energy efficient, carbon footprint negative, and natural products. Some friends of mine always have a common saying that everything causes cancer in the state of California. But as soon as you get out of California, no big deal. But it's true because the standard, California kind of sets the standard for that, which, whatever. It is what it is. But in the Midwest, it hasn't been a topic of education. I think West Michigan is one of the prime areas to kind of launch this because West Michigan tends to be a little bit more affluent, and they also, West Michigan really does care about their health, and it's a growing, especially in West Michigan proper, that we live a healthier lifestyle. You don't necessarily see that all throughout the state yet, and you don't see that all throughout the Midwest yet, but there's little pockets of places that the level of education regarding health and nature and how we, it all works together. And I think, that's a gift from God. And I've been in Christ, and that, we were, and he made this for us, and we ought to use it well.
Yeah.
We ought to be good stewards.
We're able to live in that creation.
Yeah, if we're going to be good stewards, then we should look at what we're using both for our bodies and around us as well.
So, all right, I would though the reason people aren't doing it is not because they disagree with any of those statements, and that we're supposed to be able to exist in this environment. It's not like the trees trying to kill us, with from sheep. Like those are positive things, and the way that the environment exists is it's symbiotic. We exist in that as well. So, but I don't think anyone would disagree with that sort of stuff. But it seems like, say, California is so influential in what they do, and they're kind of at the forefront of this. Well, why? Because there's a lot of money in California. So people to be healthy. If you're poor, you can't afford it. I got to eat what I can eat. It doesn't matter if it comes from the gas station or if it comes from an organic farm. I got to get food on the table. Okay, I need a house to live in. It doesn't matter what it's built with. I need a roof over my head. So you love it or hate it. I'm not advocating. I'm simply making the point that it seems like the reason that California is influenced there is because people can afford it because there's a lot of money there. And that's unfortunate. So is there, do you have to be wealthy to be able to afford some of this?
No. And that's the beautiful thing. I think if you were to go back a few years, the answer would be undoubtedly yes. But I really think that, costs are coming down. We have, as technology grows, the connection points that we have across the world are significant. And so the technology that's being, how do we harvest cork well without damaging the tree so that it regrows its bark and then can be reharvested, and you're on the rate return to market for that tree. And you're also providing a healthy, sustainable environment because you're not killing the tree. How do you do that? Well, this is how. Now, the other thing is, I don't that it inherently has to be expensive like it is in California, because California tends to have a lot more hoops and loops to jump through with construction. The construction game in California right now is just insane, in my opinion. So even something as simple as getting permits and approvals for things.
It's just regulation for regulation's sake, it feels like.
Exactly. And so I think the majority of the cost of construction that you see there is largely because of administrative, legal, insurance, paperwork, stuff like that. And so being able to take the concept of the environmental push and bringing it into an area where, there's still safeguards, right? We still pull permits. We still do good work. It's still inspected by a local inspector. But the political, administrative, insurance game crap that we see in California is not the same in Michigan, and as a result, we can lower our costs. And it doesn't to be building a home with all of the bells and whistles, right?
Correct. Yeah.
If I were to be walking through a house with somebody and we're talking about, what's some of the most important things we can do? Okay, well, let's pick top 3. And the top 3 longest lasting ones that will provide the most benefit to you. And let's move forward with those, because at the end of the day, you're still in a healthier environment than you were.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, right? You may not be, I probably afford right now to build my own house and to the specs that I want it. Mind you, I do have 5 kids. Right.
A big house, and you probably want all of it.
Right. So the more kids you have, the bigger the house. But there's still affordable options. And when you're looking at limestone plaster and lime plaster versus drywall, okay, maybe drywall is the right option for you because limestone plaster is too expensive. But we can go pre-consumer post content. Recycled content versus consumer. Recycled content. We what type of drywall you get. Why? Because we know, not everybody knows, but if you do enough research, you know what factories in the United States produce with consumer recycled content
Mhm.
versus post-consumer recycled content.
Yeah.
You can make your determination as to whether or not that's important for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, as with anything, it's not doing a pendulum swing from far right to far left or far left to far right.
Correct.
It's finding that healthy medium where we are providing people healthy, sustainable options that are within their budget.
So I'm curious, and I imagine those listening will be, you take your average house that you go through. What are the changes that you most commonly see and that would have the biggest impact just for the typical person who lives in a typical American house?
I think if you're looking what would be the biggest change, I would say what you fill your wall cavities with is probably going to be one of the primary things that I would focus on. If I were to choose one thing when it comes to building material, that's the one that I would change.
Okay.
It allows for so much air filtration to take place because every house breathes, right? It doesn't matter how airtight the house is. It doesn't matter how loose the house is. Every house breathes. It's a good thing. If it didn't, be in a lot worse shape. But if it's going to breathe, it's passing through these wall cavities all the time. What are we putting in those wall cavities?
Yeah.
And what are they putting out into your air?
Yeah.
That's a huge, and I think that if I were to say this one thing is probably the most important thing to look at, and make sure you get right, I think you should, because there's some places in Europe right now where they've essentially banned foam insulation. Like you can't because it does lead to a higher level of mold, and the off-gassing and formaldehyde and acetone and all those volatile organic compounds that are coming into your air are so prevalent. Spray foam is so bad for you. And some insurers over in Europe will not insure a house if it has spray foam insulation in it. And you have to scrape it out before they'll insure the house.
Wow. I had no idea. Wow. So that's so. All right. So if someone wants to learn more about this, well, like two things. We'll get to if they want to get in touch with you, how to do it. But I'm curious because aside from talking to you, I never heard about this in my life.
Okay, fair.
So it's not like everybody can just call you and say, "Hey, Jeff, tell me some more about this." So what?
Oh, sure.
What would you recommend if someone was thinking, okay, I want to know more. What are these specific gases? What do they cause? What are the different types of mold? What happens about that? Like, what's the exposure, long-term exposure risk versus short-term?
For sure.
Just, is there any resource that you found to be particularly useful, or was like, hey, do your own research. You're going to find the right answers.
And there's a lot of material online that you can look through. Granted, as with anything online, make sure it's verifiable, right? There's a lot of people that will just say whatever they want to say online about everything, right? I'm not all of this either on all of these different alternatives that we're talking about here.
Yeah,
but
nothing's
there's something like healthy. There's something like Healthy Materials Lab. You could go there and do some research. You could go to habitablefuture.org and they'd have there that you can look into. But there's scientific studies that you can find online. I would encourage anybody who's interested to do their own research. But we're in the middle of renovating our website right now to be able to include some of those resources and have some of that content, as well as the opportunity to purchase some of those supplies as well if you want to move towards this more healthy option.
Yeah. No, I'm very in that. And so then if anyone's listening and says, I'm going to do a renovation and I really want to be health conscious, or I'm looking at building a home and I want to be health conscious and I'm in the Michigan area, how would it be best for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to www.halstedhomes.com and there's a contact from there. And if you fill it out, we can get in contact with you. Right now, if you fill out that contact form, our entire team will see it, including me, and I can reach directly right out to you.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jeff. This is totally new, and I will be habitablefutures.org. Healthy. What was the other one?
Future.
Healthy Futures.
Habitable Future.
Oh, excuse me. Habitable Futures. Okay. Yeah.
And then you have Healthy Materials Lab.
Healthy. I'll be heading to those because I'm very curious, and I'm thinking like, well, shoot, what's in my house that I needed? That I want to be aware of this stuff now because it's a real thing. Like, I know someone who, as soon as they had that AC fixed, the next pregnancy, no worries.
That's exactly right.
And the baby really early on the other one, and there was health, sort of complications, and as soon as that was fixed, no worries. So,
right.
And your own personal experience as well, with mold and leaving that and seeing things change. So. Yeah, and it's the, I don't know, you can call it greed, you can call it affordability, you can call it whatever, but there's a trade-off for going cheap.
Always.
Always. There's a trade-off.
And most things that the trade-off for going cheap provides, most of the time, if we take the long-term mentality, it's not actually cheaper. And that's not just with regards to building materials. That's across the board in life.
Yeah.
When you do something for a cheap substitute, long term, it's not better.
Yeah. Cheap is expensive.
Yes.
It is absolutely the case. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you coming down. You mentioned that you were up on a roof before this, doing some of the work yourself. So I'm glad you're able to come down and get out of some of the cold for a little bit and join me today. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Take care.